Thank you. It's great to be here with you all. I'm going to start by saying something maybe outrageous. I'm guessing everyone here is addicted to something. Now, if you're like me, you might say, I hate being told by a psychiatrist who doesn't know me at all something that sounds very general. Yet that's what we've been exploring over the last 20 years is what is common to addiction and what can we do about that. Now, I'm going to talk about one of our efforts called Mindship Recovery that was born from this research and also funded a lot by an organization formerly known as the NIH. So as a psychiatrist, I've really struggled for the last several decades helping my patients with addiction. It's been really challenging to take what I'd learned in medical school and residency and apply it. What I found was when I apply what I was taught, it didn't actually work that well. If you look at standard addiction treatments, there's a huge amount of relapse. There are actually limited evidence bases despite the huge amount of research that has been happening over the last many decades. None of them have actually led to really solid evidence-based approaches that give us good efficacy. Also, you've probably seen this in the news. These pop up every 3 months or so, predatory treatment centers that just take advantage of individuals where the revolving door is their pipeline for revenue. This leads treatment very inaccessible to many individuals, and as I already mentioned, we're facing some headwinds in terms of getting federal funding for helping individuals with addiction. So I really struggle as an addiction psychiatrist to know what to do to help my patients. As Diana was just talking about, well, we can see opportunity and challenge. So this gives us an opportunity to start exploring what are evidence-based approaches? What have we missed in addiction treatment that we can actually build on some neuroscience to help fill some of those gaps? How can we deliver treatment in a way that is accessible to as many people as possible? How can we pair this with things that have been somewhat successful in the past? For example, 12-step programs, peer communities are extremely helpful for many individuals. And also, importantly, how can we provide this to free of charge? So for the last 20 years, I, from an ethical standpoint, didn't feel like I could develop something right for addiction, just work in my clinic and learn what I could learn. So I took our neuroscience lab and started asking, what do we not know about habit change in particular, right? We're all addicted to something. And here it might be helpful to know a simple definition of addiction: continued use despite adverse consequences. That's the definition I learned in residency and the one that I still use today because it's so both accessible to everyone, but also applicable. Right, so this isn't just the classic Breaking Bad, meth, cocaine, alcohol, whatever. This is something that might even apply to all of us. So we said, well, let's start with something that's not the classic addiction and see what we can learn and then see how we might apply it. So we started with treatments that you might not think of as addictions. For example, anxiety, eating, which is controversial depending on how people look at it. And we said, what can we learn from this? And what we learned, and this is just an example of some of our studies, we could actually get a 67% reduction in clinically validated tools of anxiety in people with generalized anxiety disorder. This is in randomized controlled trials compared to like 14% in standard clinical care. So we can get something. We can see that we can get a signal, 40% reduction in craving-related eating in individuals who struggle with overeating. 5 times the quit rates of gold standard treatment for smoking cessation. So we can get a signal and we can take that signal and we can say, how can we leverage this to then bring this back into the addiction field? So the approach that we've been taking over the last year is to develop a model based on all this evidence where we can support any addiction, right? So you can take the classic ones, but we can also support technology, porn, et cetera, where there's virtually nothing out there to help people. We can deliver the primary psychoeducational components through digital therapeutics, building on our previous successes. We know how to do that now. Importantly, we can start to bring this together with group-based community support and a critical component, supervised peer mentorship. So we're not relying on sponsors in 12 steps to become the therapist, the coach, the everything that they have not been trained to do. We can train individuals to support people, but not be expected to be trained up as a therapist. And we can deliver all of this through a flipped classroom model where the didactics are delivered in an evidence-based way, free through people's phone, and then we can train the peers with swim lanes to be able to support and guide people back to those core concepts. Now, my graduate student, Bill Nardi, has spent the last 3 years with formerly known as NIH funding to actually bring these things together through user-centered design. And I want to just highlight this because this is so critical for any type of treatment development, where we're actually listening to the end users and working with them directly. So he actually took our Unwinding Anxiety app and brought it into different communities and people who struggled with addictions, and then had them tell him what they needed and what they wanted so we could co-develop this treatment approach. And I'm just giving you some examples. I love this quote. I'm just going to read this because it's so great. I felt like I've been diagnosed with anxiety and PTSD my whole life. So I went into, and this is something with substance use issue. I went into it like, oh, nothing's going to work, but it really does work. It does. He said something about your brain, retraining your brain. This is part of the core didactics. Basically, it takes time, but it gives you hope and makes you understand. So this is somebody from this research showing that we can give people hope and package these with integrity, but also in a way that's accessible to everyone. So our mission is to really transform addiction recovery at scale, starting with classic addictions, but then broadening to all of us. We're all addicted to something. And so how can we start to bring in and replace judgment and stigma with compassion and kindness? So if you're interested, come find me throughout the day. Happy to talk more about what we're doing and how we can all get involved together. And also, if you know anybody that's struggling with any type of addiction, this is completely free. They can just go to mindshiptrecovery.org for more information. Thank you very much.